When Shane Van Gisbergen won at Chicago in 2023 on his very first Cup start, the story wrote itself. Road course legend arrives in America, does what road course legends do. Clean, simple, contained. 2 years later, that story just got completely rewritten, and this new version is a lot harder for the rest of the field to deal with. The numbers published on April 2nd through the Adjusted Points Plus Index and driver rating metrics told a story that nobody in NASCAR was fully prepared to hear. Shane Van Gisbergen has crossed into above-average territory on drafting tracks and true short tracks. Not barely above average, not sneaking past the threshold by a hair. Statistically, measurably, verifiably above average. For a driver who spent most of his Cup career being written off as a road course one-trick act, those numbers represent one of the most significant development leaps the sport has seen in recent memory. To appreciate what that means, you have to go back to where this started. Van Gisbergen came to NASCAR as the reigning Supercars champion from New Zealand, a title he had won multiple times across a career built on brilliance with a steering wheel. He was fast everywhere in Australia. Racetracks, street circuits, endurance events, it did not matter. But the Cup Series is its own animal, and ovals are the heart of that animal. Every driver who has come from outside traditional American stock car development has faced the same baptism by fire when they line up on an oval and try to figure out the language that veteran Cup racers have been speaking since they were teenagers running dirt tracks in the Midwest. His first oval results were honest. Not embarrassing, but honest. He was learning. Finishing outside the top 20 on ovals was expected. Getting collected in incidents he had no control over was part of the process. The learning curve in NASCAR is not a gentle slope. It is a cliff, and most drivers who come from other disciplines spend years just trying to find the bottom of it before they can start climbing. What Van Gisbergen did differently was the speed of the climb. By the time the 2026 season started, the evidence was already building. His 6th-place finish at Atlanta, which came after he had spun twice in the same race, announced something important to anyone paying close attention. You do not finish 6th at a superspeedway after 2 spins by accident. You do not claw back through that field, manage your restarts, and capitalize on late race chaos without a fundamentally different understanding of how oval racing works than you had 12 months earlier. That result was not luck. It was the product of repetition, film study, honest conversations with crew chiefs and engineers, and the kind of relentless self-assessment that separates drivers who plateau from drivers who keep growing. Then came Phoenix. 11th place. Another oval. Another result that confirmed the Atlanta finish was not a one-race anomaly. The Adjusted Points Plus metric exists to strip away the noise and show you where a driver actually ranks against the field when you control for car quality and circumstance. When that number says above average on drafting tracks and short tracks for Shane Van Gisbergen in 2026, it is not measuring his road course brilliance carrying his numbers upward. It is measuring him specifically in the oval environments where he was supposed to be perpetually behind. His teammate at Trackhouse Racing, Ross Chastain, has been on ovals his entire career and knows what that progression looks like from the inside. Even Bubba Wallace, who is not in the business of handing out compliments to his competitors, went on record predicting Van Gisbergen would win on an oval in 2026. That prediction landed before these April metrics were published. It landed based on what Wallace was seeing in practice sessions and in races, in the way Van Gisbergen was setting up his car, carrying his momentum through turns, and executing restarts. The short track piece of this is particularly significant. Short tracks are the most unforgiving environment in NASCAR. Bristol, Martinsville, Richmond. These are tracks where the margins are measured in inches, where side-by-side racing at 100 miles per hour requires a combination of aggression and precision that takes most American-bred drivers years to master. The physical contact is constant. The decisions come faster than thought. You are reacting on instinct, and your instincts need to be calibrated to a style of racing that has almost nothing in common with what Van Gisbergen grew up doing in Australia. Being rated above average on short tracks at this stage of his Cup career is not a small achievement. It is a statement. Connor Zilisch, the teenage prodigy who joined the Cup Series full-time in 2026 with the full weight of generational talent expectations on his shoulders, has been the most hyped rookie in the field. He deserves that hype. His resume before reaching Cup was extraordinary. But when you compare his early 2026 oval metrics to Van Gisbergen's, the New Zealander is outpacing him. That is not a criticism of Zilisch, who is 18 years old and navigating the same brutal learning curve that has humbled far more experienced drivers. It is a reflection of how far Van Gisbergen has come and how rapidly he is still moving. The drafting track classification covers the superspeedways at Daytona and Talladega, tracks where racing in packs at speeds approaching 200 miles per hour demands a completely specific skill set around drafting, positioning, and knowing when to make your move toward the front without triggering the big crash that ends races for half the field in an instant. These are tracks where experience is supposed to be the great equalizer, where veterans lean on years of reading traffic and predicting what happens 3 cars ahead. Van Gisbergen being above average there means he has cracked that code faster than almost anyone predicted. Part of his development has been structural. Trackhouse Racing gave him the resources to build his oval knowledge systematically rather than just throwing him into race weekends and hoping things clicked. He has put in seat time wherever he could find it, including races in the lower series on oval tracks, with the specific goal of building a base that his Cup results could eventually stand on. That approach requires patience from both the driver and the organization, and it requires a team willing to measure success differently in the short term to unlock something bigger in the long term. The results are now visible in the standings, in the metrics, and on the track. What this means for the rest of the 2026 Cup Series is significant. Van Gisbergen was already a threat every time the schedule landed on a road course. Competing against him on a street circuit or a road course without treating him as a title contender on that specific race day was a mistake teams stopped making after Chicago in 2023. But that threat was contained to a handful of races per season. The oval results and the April 2nd metrics suggest that window of threat is now expanding across the full schedule. The entire Cup Series is on notice, not just on road courses, on every type of track. Shane Van Gisbergen came to America as an outsider, with a driving style built in a completely different racing culture on the other side of the world. The critics said the oval learning curve would break him or, at minimum, limit him to a supporting role in the Cup Series narrative. He turned that narrative into fuel. He worked the problem methodically, raced his way through the mistakes, absorbed the lessons, and kept showing up. The numbers say he has arrived. The races say he is just getting started.